Welcome. Welcome back to the video series entitled The Day of the Lord. This video series is number 12-1. Today we'll be studying about clues. Clues that can help us decode Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation. Have you ever played the game of Clue? This was a Parker Brothers game that you played with your family, and I love this game. You know, you had to do some thinking, you had to deduce some things, and in the end, you had to render a conclusion on who did it. The way this game worked was that you had players, and they strategically moved around the game board, which was the mansion, into different rooms, and you collected clues from which you were to deduce the murder suspect, who was the murderer. Then, you know, the perennial victim was Dr. Black, so you had to figure out what was the weapon and in what room was he murdered. So what does this have to do with Bible prophecy? Well, the story of the Day of the Lord is sort of like the game of Clue in a few ways, you'll see. But this story of the Day of the Lord is true, and it will have eternal consequences. So how is it similar to this old game board of Clue? Well, we'll still have to think, we'll still have to make some deductions, and we'll have to render a conclusion. So my prayer is this, is that we ask for the Holy Spirit to guide our minds as we proceed with these studies. Without the Holy Spirit's guidance, these things cannot be understood. So in this episode of the Day of the Lord teaching, I want to get you familiar with the characters and the objects and the concepts that we'll be studying in later episodes. Today I won't be giving you any proof text of what's presented. That will come later. So today is just an overview of the characters, the objects, and the concepts. So I'm going to introduce you to the following today: the timing of the story, the players in the story, the book of life, the other books, the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, and the 7 bowls. These are key concepts that we're going to review with you today, and that we'll go through these in detail in the follow-on episodes. So the first concept we're going to talk about is timing. Timing is critical to understanding prophecy. Well, I hope you had the opportunity to view my prior episode on how to interpret prophecy in Daniel and Revelation. I presented 4 rules in that video teaching, and one of them was timing. And we talked about the Jubilee calendar, and that during the Jubilee calendar, that a day is translated into a year in Bible prophecy during that period of time, and that when the Jubilee calendar ended in 1994, the prophecy timing is converted as a day equals a day, or literal. It's literal time. So if it talks about a day, it means a day. If it talks about a month, it means a month. So when we look at Bible prophecy that falls within the Jubilee calendar, we use a day for a year formula. When we talk about Bible prophecy that falls past 1994, we use literal time. So that's going to be key for our understanding. And of course, past 1994, we're talking about last day events. So these are the prophecies that we're going to be focusing on. Last day events, prophecies. And these are called apocalyptic prophecies, end day prophecies. So if you look at the book of Daniel and Revelation, you will find a number of Bible texts that have time references in them. So in the book of Daniel and Revelation, there are actually 18 different time references found in those two books that are related to apocalyptic prophecies. And if you look here on the right-hand side, you'll see that the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation that refer to end-time prophecies, there are a number of them, and these are going to be translated as literal time, day for a day. So in Daniel, there's 2 prophecies, and in Revelation, there's 10, where we use a literal time or day for a day translation of these prophecies. So let's take a look at a few of these, some of the critical ones, some key times. Okay, the first one we're going to look at is a prophecy found in Daniel 12:12. It talks about 1,335 days, and it says, "Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches this day." So that's the first one we'll look at. Next one is 1,260 days. That's in Revelation 11, verse 3. And that's the length of time that the 2 witnesses are empowered. They're empowered for 1,260 days. And the next one is 42 months. And if you use the Jewish calendar of 30 days in a month, that also is 1,260 days. And that's from Revelation 13, verse 5. And that's the length of time that the saints will be persecuted during the Great Tribulation. Then the next one is a kind of an unusual one. It's very unique. It's called a punctiliar event. And that's a text in Revelation 9:15, and it talks about an hour, day, month, and year when 4 angels are released onto the earth by God. Okay, the next one is a 5-month period. It's found in Revelation 9, verse 5. And it's a length of time that those that do not have the seal of God are tortured, a 5-month period. And lastly here is a 3.5-day period. That's found in Revelation 11:11. And this is the length of time that the dead bodies of the 2 witnesses will lie in the streets. So I want to show you from 1 to 6 here how these times interweave with each other. So we're going to start off with the 1,335 days. Now you notice the scale at the bottom has both days and months on those. So we're going to be looking at both of these. So the outside box is the 1,335 days, and this is the length of the Great Tribulation that will occur on earth. It starts at day 1, or at the beginning, and it goes 1,335 days to the end. So here again, the outside length of time, the total length is 1,335 days. And you might ask, well, what starts the clock ticking here for 1,335 days? And this is found in Revelation 8:5, and it says, "Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and hurled it on the earth." So we will be covering this topic of the censer being hurled onto the earth in step 1 later. But this is the event that starts off the Great Tribulation of 1,335 days. And of course, the reference to 1,335 days is found in Daniel 12:12. This is a very interesting text. It says, "Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days." So this actually has to be talking about days, because there is no person on earth ever that has lived 1,335 years. So you cannot use a day for a year translation here. So this is definitely talking about the Great Tribulation, the end of the earth, the end of time. And it says, blessed is the person, or the persons, who waits for and reaches the end of this time period, 1,335 days. So the Great Tribulation, that's how long it lasts, 1,335. Okay, so at the very beginning of the Great Tribulation, the two witnesses are selected by God, and they are empowered to witness for 1,260 days. So they start off on day one, and they run for 1,260 days, not quite to the end of the Great Tribulation. And I'll show you why here in a second. So the two witnesses are empowered for 1,260 days. So what happens at the end, at the very end of this time period? Well, they're killed, and the bodies of the two witnesses lie in the street for 3.5 days. So the two witnesses are killed, and they lie dead in the street for 3.5 days. And that happens towards the end of the Great Tribulation. Now, let's look at the second scale at the bottom. It says months, and these are linked with the days, so they coincide properly. So you can see on the left-hand side there that the 0 month, and on the far on the right is the 42nd month. So you can see that the 0 month is indented a little bit from the days. In fact, it's indented about 2 months worth. So what does this mean? Well, it means that about 2 months into the Great Tribulation, the saints will start to be persecuted, and they will be persecuted for 42 months or 1,260 days. And that will go almost to the end of the 1,335 days, but not quite, and we'll cover that in more detail later. But this is the overlay where the saints are persecuted during the Great Tribulation. So there are some other dates that fall within this great persecution of the saints. And at about day 891, we find that those that do not have the seal of God will be tormented for 5 months. And this will start at about day 891. And then on day 1039 is this punctiliar event. And this is a particular hour, day, month, and year that God has decreed that point in time when he will release 4 angels to wreak havoc on the earth. And this is found in Revelation 9:15. So that will happen around 1039 days, 1,039 days into the Great Tribulation. So you can see a little bit now how these various dates interweave with each other. So timing of these prophecies is critical to our understanding. And I will be covering these timing topics again as I go through each of the episodes in this teaching series. So you don't have to remember any of them today. We will be covering those again as we go through each one of the teachings. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview today so you can get a heads up on what's coming. All right. Just like in the game of Clue, there's players in the Great Tribulation. Let's look at these. The players in the Great Tribulation are called beasts. Now this is a word, a term that's used in the King James Version of the Bible, and beast is really just another name for animals. So what are the 4 animals or 4 beasts that are described in the book of Revelation? Well, the first is the Lamb. The second is the great red dragon. The third is the beast from the water. And the fourth is the lamb-like beast from the land. So there's four different beasts: the lamb, the red dragon, the beast from the water, and the beast from the land. And the last two, I call them the first beast of Revelation 13 and the second beast of Revelation 13 in my teaching. That's how they occur in the Bible text. One comes first, and then the beast from the land comes second in the text. So you'll see me referring to them in that way also. So let's look at these in more detail. So the first beast, the first animal, is a baby lamb, and this is Jesus. And in Revelation we read 5 verse 6. It says, "Then I saw a lamb, looking as if it had been slain, standing in the center before the throne, encircled by the four living creatures and the elders." So the first beast is the lamb, it's Jesus. All right, the second beast. It looks like a lamb, doesn't it? Well, actually, it's called lamb-like. And this is really the devil. And this is really the Antichrist. And we will see this as we go through our study. And it looks like a lamb. You know why? Because it's going to impersonate Jesus. This lamb-like beast will impersonate Jesus on earth. That's why he's called lamb-like. But he also speaks like the dragon. So this beast has lamb horns. It's lamb-like, but it speaks like a dragon. You might say that it acts like the dragon at some point in time. So we will be studying this as we go along. So the second beast from the earth is the lamb-like beast, and that is the devil. The next beast is the great red dragon. And here again, the great red dragon, it says right in the text who it is. This is the devil. He has 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns. There's no mistaking this guy. This is the devil. All right, let's look at the first beast from the water. This is an unusual looking beast. It has 7 heads, you can see. Looks like it's made up of different animals or different, you might say, nationalities. And this is found in Revelation 13 verse 1. So this is the leopard-like beast. And this is Babylon, the global church-state government that will form shortly after the Great Tribulation starts. And it has 7 heads with blasphemous names on the heads, 10 crowns, 10 horns. What a beast. So this is Babylon, the global church-state government that forms shortly after the Great Tribulation starts. Hey, this is a 5th beast? Well, not exactly, but there is a scarlet beast here, and let's look at this guy. And this is found in Revelation 17, verse 3. And I call this beast Babylon 2. And this is a theocratic government that the devil sets up. It has 7 heads with blasphemous names on it and 10 horns. 7 heads, 10 horns, with blasphemous names. Oh yeah, and there's one other thing. There's a woman that rides this beast. She's riding on top of the beast. Very mysterious. So we will be covering this woman more in later teaching. But this beast is different than the others, isn't it? So let's look at the beast from the water again. This beast from the water is a church-state government that forms shortly after the Great Tribulation starts. 7 heads, 10 horns, and the crowns are on the horns. This beast is really a puppet government controlled by the devil. You won't see the devil controlling it. He's pulling the strings from behind. A puppet government controlled by the devil. And this appears after the fourth trumpet. All right, let's look at this scarlet beast now. This is a government that is directly controlled by the devil in person. Theocracy, theocratic government. And he controls this government directly. He is in charge of this government. And this government appears right after the sixth trumpet sounds. So let's look at these two a little bit more here in detail. So the first beast is going to morph into the theocratic government of the scarlet beast at some point in time during the Great Tribulation. And I'll show you exactly when that happens. So the first beast morphs into the second beast. And the second beast will be controlled directly on earth by the devil. We will be taking orders, or this government will be taking orders directly from the devil. So what is a theocracy? It's an organization in which the official policy is to be governed by immediate divine guidance, by God, if you will. So God himself is recognized as the head of this government. There are a few countries in the world today that have this type of government. And this is what Lucifer, the devil, he's going to impersonate God, the lamb-like beast. He's going to impersonate God and set up a theocracy when the sixth trumpet sounds. So let's look at these four beasts again. First one is the lamb, which is Jesus. The second one is the lamb-like, which is the devil. The third one is the dragon, which is also the devil. And the fourth one is the beast from the water, which is a church-state government that morphs into the scarlet beast, which is a government directly run by the devil. So these are the four beasts of Revelation.